Audible Inc. presents Where Am I Wearing? A global tour to the countries, factories, and people that make our clothes. Written by Kelsey Timmerman. Narrated by Mirron Willis.
Preface. Below me is the Caribbean. Behind me is a global adventure that changed my life and the way I live it. Ahead of me is Honduras, where all of this began 6 years ago. The world has changed since I last visited Honduras and stood in front of the factory where my T-shirt was made. The first edition of this book came out in November of 2008. You likely remember this as a time where any investments you held suddenly halved. Jobs were lost. Home values continued to plummet. In other words, it was a great time to have a book come out. The world is coming to an end, a crazed hair friend may have warned. Better stock up on guns and gold. Oh, by the way, have you heard about this book called Where Am I Wearing? This fella named Kelsey went to Bangladesh because his underwear were made there. It's only $25, which is about how much your stock portfolio lost in the last 5 minutes. Bullet sales in the United States went up 49%, while book sales dropped 9%. But the down economy had a much wider impact than the publishing industry in the lives of first-time authors. The global financial crisis impacted every single person I met on my global quest to meet the people who made my clothes. Food prices skyrocketed. Arifa, the single mother of 3 in Bangladesh, was now forced to spend over half of her income on rice for her family. 64 million people fell into extreme poverty, living on less than $1.25 per day. 82 million more people were going hungry. Orders for just about everything declined, and global unemployment increased by 34 million. The blue jean factory at which Nari and I, 2 of the workers I met in Cambodia, worked, closed. There were reports of workers, primarily women in their late teens and early 20s, turning to prostitution. Were Nari and I and the others I met in Cambodia among them? My wardrobe has changed, but not as much as I have. Since I last sat on a plane nosing around San Pedro Sula, Honduras, I got married and had 2 kids. I see the world through a dad's eyes now. Eyes that water when I watch Toy Story 3 with my daughter, Harper. Eyes that look toward a future beyond my own. Eyes that better see where I fit in as a local citizen in my hometown of Muncie, Indiana, and where I fit in as a global citizen. This second edition of Where Am I Wearing is essentially about the sacrifices parents and children make for one another in the hopes of a better life. Until I looked upon my own children, I only saw the world through the invincible eyes of a son. Having kids changed me, but so did the mothers and fathers, sisters and brothers I met tracking down who made my clothes and where. The other day I was on a stage at one of the universities that selected this book for their freshman Common Reader program. All incoming freshmen read and discussed the book, an amazing experience to have as an author. This particular university dressed me in regalia, Harry Potter robes with shoulder pads, sans magic wand. I tried to convince the university that if they make an author wear regalia, they should give him an honorary degree, but they wouldn't bite. I would have questioned their integrity if they had. I felt silly. Then I clicked on the first slide of my presentation, a 20-foot-tall picture of Arifa in Bangladesh, and completely forgot about the pomp and circumstance. When I met Arifa in Bangladesh, I had no idea I would be able to share her story in the way that I have. There was no promise of a book, but there I stood before 1,500 students in faculty, and they all knew her name. They all knew her story. I've stood on other stages at universities and high schools across the country, and it never gets old. It is an absolute honor to share her story, and all of the others. When my editor Richard called me about updating this book, I was in the middle of brushing my daughter's teeth. He asked me if I had any ideas for new material.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?